What's going on, guys? This is TopTierYugioh. I'm Antwan Steele. Today I want to give you guys a quick rundown of YCS Atlanta, where almost 1,500 duelists came out to compete. So YCS Atlanta was the final event of the Post Breakers of Shadow format, where we got to see Pepe at full power before the adjusted ban list takes effect, which I'll put a link to both on the screen and in the description. To nobody's surprise, Pepe ran away with the competition. Now, this was also the first YCS where we could use the new Monarchs support, and did relatively well, getting 2 of the top 32 spots, as well as the veteran deck of the meta, Cosmo's doing well, getting a top 4 spot. Let's get into the top 32. So top 32 had 29 Pepe, 2 Monarchs, and 1 Cosmo. 6 of the Pepe decks were the Ariadne build, 4 of them were Dark Pepe. Even though the other 19 were listed as just Pepe with nothing special about them, there was a lot of variation within them, such as Billy Break maining different trap hole cards and 2 Rafflesia. There was Faisal Khan, he played Triple Chalice. There are other different decks. People played different amounts of Twin Twister or not, or some people did play counter traps but not Ariadne. So there's a lot of variation within the Pepe decks, even though they're all just listed as Pepe, and so that's important to note. So let's get into how each of these decks made it this far, and we'll start with Monarchs. So there are 2 reasons why Monarchs topped this event. First, they have a good matchup with Pepe. Second, they have a good matchup with Cosmo. So against Pepe, Domain can completely lock out Pepe players from the extra deck. So when you have a tribute summon monster on the field, it has enough attacks so that the only out is going to be Mirror Conductor or Turn Toad or an extra deck monster. But if you have Domain out, it takes away that option for your opponent to get an extra deck monster, and usually you just win. Yeah, if you don't have Twin Twister, pretty much you just kind of lose. They also have cards such as Storm Forth, which contribute opposing problem monsters like Rafflesia or Cyber Infinity if you've already baited it out. And then on top of that, March of the Monarchs to protect your boards, Return to search your Monarchs, as well as Majesty's Fiend, which can be really hard to out against Pepe. And then you have cards like Pantheism, Tenacity, Ether, and Erebus getting the engine going. And once the engine gets going, it's pretty hard to stop because, it's just a plus machine. You have cards like Edia giving you the tribute fodder that you need, as well as getting you back your banished cards, which get banished from Pantheism and the Prime Monarch. Against Pepe, they're really good because Storm Force can get rid of the opposing ships if they won't float, and then Majesty's Fiend is usually just GG. Because against Majesty's Fiend, you can't activate the effects to summon the ships, you can't use Good Witch's effect, you literally can't do anything, and so you just lose. Now, the reasons they didn't do better, everyone was side decking Mask of Restrict. Everyone knew Monarchs were going to be there, and then Twin Twister was also very popular, which could out Domain. And then once you out a Domain, it's usually not very difficult for a Pepe player to kind of just summon out loads of monsters and just OTK you on the spot. And another problem was their inconsistency. So there are multiple combinations of cards in the Monarch deck that allow you just to not play. So you might draw something such as 3 Monarch, March, and Domain, and can't summon anything. There are a lot of things like a bunch of Monarchs, or a bunch of low-level monsters like Edia and Eodos that don't let you do anything. You might draw all spells and no Monarchs, or no tribute fodder, and so there are a lot of combinations of cards that would just don't let you play the game. And so that's one of the reasons why Monarchs didn't do well. That, along with various side deck hate. Let's get into some of the Pepe decks. So one of the more popular ones was the Ariadne one. So Ariadne gives Pepe a lot of advantages because usually people play fewer traps. Because they're playing fewer traps, that means more people are preparing to play against traps in the mirror match. And so that makes them actually weaker to traps. And the reason you don't want to play traps is just because you want to draw combo cards versus traps, because traps you have to wait a turn until they're useful, whereas combo cards are going to be good right as you draw them. Like I said, the lack of traps in most of the builds is what made them weaker to traps in general. And Fraser Smith, actually, he got 3rd place, and he played the Ariadne version, and he said he felt like he won 13 out of 15 mirror matches because he played the counter traps. Ariadne can combo with Wavering Eyes, similar to how the standard build does with Plush Fire, Luster Pendulum. Instead of using Plush Fire to search for monsters, you can use Ariadne to search for counter traps, which can devastate opposing pendulum summons. So the common counter traps that were used were Magic Drain, which is good because most Pepe decks are only going to play the standard 6 spells. They're only going to play 3 Wavering and 3 Draco Face-Off, and a lot of times the only card you're going to lose to is Wavering Eyes. You have this, when they have the Wavering Eyes, they won't have the other spell to discard, and so you can just negate Wavering Eyes. Versus a lot of times people will have the Wavering Eyes, but then you'll chain your own Wavering Eyes. They might have a Damage Juggler, and so it can get pretty ridiculous. But Magic Drain stops all of that craziness and saves you from losing the Wavering Eyes. Then you have Solemn Strike and Warning, obviously are just very good. And then you also have Ultimate Providence, which is extremely versatile because it allows you to negate anything. And in most cases you're going to negate just the monster effect because you have more monsters than anything else. But sometimes you can also negate other counter traps. You can negate spells as well, such as Wavering Eyes. So you have Ariadne in your Pendulum Zone. You can use Ultimate Providence to negate anything. It's like a free Solemn Judgment, and that's, just ridiculous. So There were 6 in top 32, 1 in top 4, that one being Fraser Smith. The other popular variant of Pepe was the Dark Pepe version. And the difference in that is that you play Armageddon Knight, as well as Shadow Dragon and Blackwing Zephyros the Elite. Shadow Dragon is really good because it allows you to out Floodgates like any spell fragrance in the main deck, as well as Zephyros gives you a free monster while reusing your pendulum skills such as Gee Turtle and Monkey Board. And then bouncing back your skills also makes you a little more resistant to Wavering Eyes, because that's one less skill they can destroy. The Darks also give you access to Evil Swarm Nightmare, which is really hard to out in a mirror match, as well as Key Beetle, which can protect your skills to also help you against Wavering Eyes, as well as protecting things like your Cyber Infinity or your Rafflesia, your Ignister, whatever you need to protect in order to ensure your victory. The Dark Engine also helps in the mirror because Nightmare is really hard to get around in the mirror match. There's not really too many outs to it because people don't really play Raigeki or Dark Hole in the main. The only out I would say is Mirror Conductor and Turn Toad. And then it also helps against Rogue because Shadow Dragon can out, most things that people will side against you. Most hate cards such as, again, Anti-Spell, Kaiser Coliseum, things like that. You can just out with Armageddon Knight or Shadow Dragon. And so 4 Dark Pepe builds made the top 32. None made top 8, however. The biggest surprise of the tournament was Cosmo. So there was one Cosmo player that he went undefeated in Swiss. He was first, and then he made it all the way to top 4. And he had a pretty unconventional deck, to say the least. So we all know Cosmo is an explosive deck that can OTK in the blink of an eye, using Good Witch to out Cyber Infinity, Rafflesia, Ignister, Tin Can giving you easy +1s while setting up your hand and your graveyard. But he said that Strawman was actually the MVP of the day, and he made a lot of crazy plays with Strawman, such as in his top 4 feature mat, he outed a field of... And so the reason Strawman is so good is because it gives you 2 monsters, that and Tin Can, to banish during your opponent's turn if you have 2 ships in your hand. But it also has 1800 defense, which is huge because against Pepe, the only monster in the main deck that has the attack is a Master Pendulum or a Luster Pendulum. And they don't necessarily want to be normal summoning those usually. And so, in most cases, your opponent's going to have to make a play to get over his defense. And when they make a play, you can have the Destroyer in your hand to kind of counter that. Now, he also made that 2 anti-spell fragrances, as well as the Solemn Brigade and Skill Drain. So when your opponent made the plays to get over the Strawman, he usually had the answers. He also had Maxis and Ghost Luggers. In his side deck, he played Kaiser Coliseum as well. Shoutouts to him for piloting Cosmo to a top 4 finish and a pool full of Pepe. So that's really impressive. So in the finals, there was just 2 standard Pepes. It's hard to say, what variations were in their deck because they just listed them as, Pepe. Nothing special about them. But I'm sure there were some differences. And so congrats to Jose Lagunes. I hope I pronounced that right for winning YCS Atlanta. I can't wait to see how the format evolves now with the adjusted list. And so I challenge all of you guys to, be creative, play what you want to play, try it all out. And then thanks for watching, guys.